Hi guys, this is IGCSE O-Level Chemistry Paper 22, November 2020, question 1. Which gas has the slowest rate of diffusion? So since only the formula of gases are given, so the rate of diffusion would depend on their MR. The greater the MR value, the slower the rate of diffusion. The lower the MR value, the faster the rate of diffusion. So we would need to calculate the MR, and the gas with the highest MR would be the one that would have the slowest rate of diffusion. So the MR of hydrogen is 2, the MR of ammonia is 17, the MR of methane is 16, and the MR of carbon dioxide is 44. Since 44 is the highest MR value, this makes option D the correct option for this question. Question 2. A chromatography experiment is carried out to analyze the pigments present in 4 different types of leaf. The student carrying out the experiment forgot to complete his table of results, which is shown. So this has 4 different types of leaf. It has number of pigments identified, color of identified pigments, distance traveled by the solvent or the solvent front, distance traveled from the origin by each pigment, so the solute front, and the RF values. So the missing ones are which will identify the values of F, G, and H. So number of pigments identified. So the color of identified pigments is green and yellow, which means number of pigments is 2. This is F. Next is G. G is the distance traveled by the solvent. So let's take green as a reference. So the distance traveled by green color is 2.5, and the distance traveled by the solvent is G, which will give us a value of 0.78 as the RF value. So in order to calculate G, make G the subject of the formula. G will be equal to 2.5 divided by 0.78. This gives us a value of 3.2 for the distance traveled by the solvent. So value of G is 3.2. And for H, it is the RF value. And RF value is calculated by the distance traveled by the solute upon distance traveled by the solvent. So that would give us a value of 3 upon 3.5, which is equal to 0.86. So we have a value for each of the missing data. This is 0.86. So we need a value of 2 for F. This eliminates options B and D. We need a value of 3.2, which is true for both A and C. For G and for H, a value of 0.86. This eliminates option A and makes option C the correct option for this question. Question 3. Which statement about isotopes is correct? They have different proton numbers? No. Isotopes are defined as atoms of the same element having the same number of electrons and protons but different number of neutrons. So they should have the same number of protons. They have different chemical properties? No, they should have the same chemical properties as well. They have the same nucleon number. Nucleon number is the sum of the number of protons and the number of neutrons. They may have the same number of protons, but they should have different number of neutrons, making their nucleon numbers different, not the same. And they have the same number of electrons in their outer shell. Yes, they are atoms of the same element, so they would have the same number of electrons in their outer shell, making option D the correct option for this question. Question 4. In the chromatography experiment shown, which label represents the solvent front? Solvent front is the distance traveled by the solvent calculated from the baseline till the line that is marked just below the end of the paper. So this is represented by option A, making A the correct option for this question. Question 5. Different methods of separation rely on substances having different properties. Which property does distillation make use of? So distillation is a separation between liquids by making use of the difference in their boiling point. So boiling point is correct, color is not used, particle size is not used, and solubility in different solvents is not used. So the correct option for this question is option A. Question 6. The arrangements of the electrons in two ions formed from element X and Y are shown. So all of them have 8 electrons in their outermost shell. Which equation represents the reaction between elements X and Y? So the proton number of element X is 19, making this potassium. And potassium would form an ion with a charge of +1. And the proton number of Y, which is 17, makes it chlorine. And chlorine would form an ion with a charge of -1. So which equation represents the reaction between elements X and Y? So this would be K plus Cl2. In order to balance, this would be 2K, giving us 2 moles of K positive and 2 moles of Cl negative according to the way the equation is given in the option. So we need to have, converting this into X and Y, we need to have 2 moles of X reacting with Y2, producing 2 moles of X positive and 2 moles of Y negative. So this is the equation that is given in option C, making C the correct option for this question. Question 7. Which row identifies compounds that contain single covalent bonds only, double covalent bonds only, or both single and double covalent bonds? So the given species are C2H4, which is ethene. So the structure of C2H4 is C double bond C, with each carbon atom forming two single covalent bonds with separate hydrogen atoms. The next compound given is CH3OH, which would be 3 carbon hydrogen single bonds, 1 carbon oxygen single bond, and 1 oxygen hydrogen single bond. And the next species is carbon dioxide, which would have 2 carbon oxygen double bonds present. And these are the only species given as the options. Okay, so now single covalent bond only, which would be present in CH3OH. So this eliminates options A and D. Then double covalent bonds only is present in CO2, which eliminates option B. And both single and double are present in ethene, making option C the correct option for this question. Question 8. Ethyl methanoate burns in excess oxygen to produce carbon dioxide and water. The equation is shown. Okay, and what is the value of X? X is the moles of oxygen gas required. So we calculate the number of oxygen atoms on the product side, which would be 6 times 2, 12 plus 6, giving us a total of 18. So the number of moles of oxygen present in the reactant are 2 times 2 is 4. So the number of moles of oxygen that would be required would be 18 minus 4 will give us 14. And since we have O2 present, so this would be 14 divided by 2, which would give us a value of 7 for X, making option B the correct option for this question. Question 9. Rubidium is in group 1 of the periodic table and bromine is in group 7. Rubidium reacts with bromine to form an ionic compound. So this would be RB, and it forms a compound with bromine, so RbBr. Rb would have a positive charge, Br would have a negative charge. Okay. Which row shows the electron change taking place for rubidium and the correct formula of the rubidium ion? So the correct formula of the rubidium ion would be Rb positive. So this would eliminate options B and D. And electrons are lost in order to form a positively charged ion. So electrons gained would be incorrect. Electrons lost would be correct, making option C the correct option for this question. Question 10. This statement explains why graphite is used as a lubricant. All bonds between the atoms are weak. No. It conducts electricity. That is true, but that does not explain why it is a lubricant. This explains why it is used as an electrode. It has a low melting point. No, it has a high melting point. It is a covalent macromolecule. Layers in the structure can slide over each other. Yes, this is correct. Because the layers can slide over each other, it is used as a lubricant, making option D the correct option for this question.